We're in Seattle, and you may think it's just another gray, cloudy day in Seattle, but the reality is what you see in the grayness is smoke. And it's smoke because it's forest fire season. The entire West Coast from Southern California to British Columbia is engulfed in forest fires. Right now there are 27 fires in Oregon and Washington, over 100 in British Columbia. I don't know how many in Idaho, and about 50 of them in Montana. The smoke is from those fires. The ash on our cars is from those fires. And each year, when it's forest fire season in the West, I'm reminded of a book I read over 20 years ago called Young Men in Fire by Norman Maclean. And it's about the Mann Gulch fire that took place in 1949. You see, what happened is there was a lightning strike in this remote area of Montana. It hit a tree, and a small fire started on August 4th, 1949. By the next day, it was large enough to be spotted by the spotters, and a smoke jumper crew out of Missoula, Montana hopped onto a C-47 and dropped into the gulch of the fire, Mann Gulch. They were led by their supervisor, their crew leader, Wag Dodge, an experienced veteran wildfire fighter and smoke jumper. The crew had a handful of college forestry students. It had some military veterans. A crew of smoke jumpers got on a C-47 aircraft in Missoula, Montana, and were flown to the site. There were 7 college forestry students, a handful of World War II military veterans, and some other folks, led by Wag Dodge, their crew leader, supervisor, foreman, the guy in charge. They parachuted into Mann Gulch, and as they started to approach the fire, it jumped across from the south side of the canyon to the north side of the canyon. Things quickly began to get out of control. There were a series of events that created an emergency where people were in great danger. The wind picked up, and the fire quickly jumped from the south side to the north side of the canyon and advanced very quickly until the firefighters were trapped. Supervisor Wag Dodge did something that nobody understood because he was the veteran and they were the rookies. He built a fire in the 2.5-foot high grass in the bottom of the canyon where the crew was, with the intention and the direction and command for his crew to get into the hot ashes from that fire to protect themselves from the great forest fire that was beginning to engulf them. At that point, the whole team fell apart. People did not trust him well enough to obey his command. Communication was not clear. People didn't understand why. And people quickly defaulted to a situation of simply trying to save their own lives. Subsequently, 13 men died. There was very long and thorough investigations. And once the onion was peeled back from the Forest Service attempting to protect itself, it became very clear that there were multiple leadership failures from the top down to the supervisor on the ground. There was no team built. There was no trust across the team. People didn't know each other very well. And what the investigation highlighted is many things that have subsequently become standard components of training supervisors, leaders, and forest fire crews to this day so that this doesn't happen again. So years later, after the governmental investigations were completed and the blame was placed, fault was found, etc., there were university professors that started studying the human behavioral aspects of the fire and why people did what they did. And there was some very interesting learning that came from that. Not going to go into that now, but I do want to give you just a few key points that you can use as a leader of your own organization. And I realize, people watching this video, it's unlikely that there's anybody that leads a team that truly is in regular life and death situations. But if there is, great, it still applies. For most of us who lead teams that are different than that, the basics still apply. One, it takes time to build an effective high-performance team. It takes time to build the relationships and the level of trust that's necessary for people to work together in day-to-day situations, and particularly in high-stress situations that occur in the workplace every day. People have to trust their bosses, their bosses have to trust the people. Communication, emotional intelligence, solid commitment to turning conflict into positive outcomes, and a high level of respect for the dignity of all team members are key components. That doesn't happen in a snapshot in time. It takes a commitment to work together over time to build a true high-performing team that gets the kind of results you need, and that also survives and thrives in the day-to-day emergencies of running a business. There are 10,000 men and women that are currently in harm's way fighting forest fires in the West. These are people that are putting their lives at risk to save the property and lives of other people. I want to end by wishing them a safe return to their families, and in the words of Sergeant Esterhaus from the old TV show Hill Street Blues, hey, let's be careful out there.